Good afternoon, and welcome to today's lecture on Plato and the problem of universals. In our exploration today, we will address one of philosophy's most enduring questions. How can multiple distinct things share the same universal properties? Plato's theory of forms offers a profound solution to this dilemma, positioning universals as real entities existing in a separate realm beyond our sensory experience. Before we dive into the core of today's discussion, I encourage you to engage with the primary dialogues that will enhance your understanding of Plato's argumentation. These include the Republic and Phaedo, where Plato introduces and expands on his concept of forms, and Parmenides, where the complexities of universals and their relationship to particulars are critically examined. Each of these texts offers key insights into how Plato navigates the metaphysical challenges of universals. Furthermore, the ongoing debate in Sophist will add another layer to your understanding of the problem. Engaging with these readings will enrich today's lecture and help you gain a more comprehensive grasp of Plato's approach to universals. By interacting directly with the text, you will cultivate the analytical skills necessary for discerning Plato's resolution to the tension between the one and the many and his broader metaphysical vision. As we progress, we'll touch upon later critiques and developments, including Aristotle's contrasting views in his Metaphysics. The debate on universals has not ceased to be relevant, and today's lecture aims to contextualize Plato's ideas within that ongoing philosophical conversation. Now, let's delve into Plato's solution to the problem of universals and how it continues to shape philosophical inquiry. Lecture 25, Plato and the Problem of Universals. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's lecture on one of the central problems in philosophy, the problem of universals. Plato's theory of forms, often interpreted as his solution to this problem, has influenced not only ancient thought, but also the development of medieval and modern philosophy. Today, we will explore how Plato addresses the problem of universals, what implications his ideas have for metaphysics and epistemology, and how his views continue to provoke discussion in contemporary philosophy. To begin, let us define what we mean by the problem of universals. Simply put, it is the question of how we can account for the fact that many different particular things can all be referred to by the same general concept. For example, how can both a particular red apple and a red sunset share the quality of redness? Are universals like redness real entities that exist independently of particular things, or are they simply names we give to similarities among particulars? Plato's answer to this dilemma is found in his theory of forms, which asserts that universals are indeed real and exist in a realm separate from the material world. The problem of universals in ancient Greek philosophy. The problem of universals was not invented by Plato. It has deep roots in pre-Socratic philosophy and continued to be discussed by later philosophers like Aristotle. Parmenides and Heraclitus, for instance, grappled with related issues concerning the nature of change, identity, and multiplicity. Parmenides famously argued that change is an illusion and that only one unchanging reality exists. Heraclitus, on the other hand, emphasized that change is fundamental to the nature of reality. Plato's response to these opposing views, which we will see more fully in his theory of forms, tries to reconcile the apparent tension between change and stability, multiplicity and unity, in his account of universals. For Plato, the tension between the one and the many is not just a metaphysical puzzle, but also an epistemological one. How can we have knowledge of things that are constantly changing? Plato's response to this question is that true knowledge cannot be about the changing material world, but must instead concern the eternal, unchanging forms, which are the true universals. Plato's theory of forms as a solution. In the Republic, Plato presents his theory of forms most clearly through the famous allegory of the cave and the divided line, Republic 514a, 521a. Here he distinguishes between the world of appearances, where things change and are imperfect, and the world of forms, which is eternal and perfect. The forms are the true realities, and particular things in the material world are only imperfect copies of these forms. For example, all the particular beautiful objects we encounter in the material world are only imperfect copies of the form of beauty itself, which exists in the realm of forms. In this way, Plato solves the problem of universals by arguing that universals are not mere names or concepts, but real entities that exist in the realm of forms. The form of beauty, for instance, exists independently of any particular beautiful thing, and it is by participating in this form that particular things are beautiful. Republic 596a. This participation is what allows us to recognize beauty in different objects, even though those objects may vary greatly in their particular qualities. Furthermore, the Phaedo provides a key example of how Plato connects the problem of universals with his theory of knowledge. In the dialogue, Socrates argues that our ability to recognize equality in different objects, such as sticks and stones, implies that we have some prior knowledge of the form of equality. Phaedo 74a, 75e. This suggests that our knowledge of universals comes not from our experience of particular things, but from our intellectual apprehension of the forms. Universals and particulars. Participation and imitation. One of the central questions that arises from Plato's theory of forms is how exactly particulars participate in or imitate the forms. Plato does not offer a definitive answer to this question, and his language in different dialogues sometimes varies. In the Timaeus, for example, he describes the process of imitation as the work of a divine craftsman, the demiurge, who creates the material world by fashioning it after the eternal forms, Timaeus 29d30b. This suggests that the relationship between universals and particulars is one of imitation. Particulars are imperfect copies of the perfect forms. In the Parmenides, however, Plato raises a number of difficulties with his own theory, particularly concerning the notion of participation. How, Parmenides asks, can a particular thing both be separate from the form and yet participate in it? If the form is separate from the particular, then how can the particular be said to have the quality that the form represents? Plato does not resolve these issues in the dialogue, leaving the relationship between universals and particulars somewhat ambiguous. Parmenides 130b, 135e. Nevertheless, the basic idea remains that particulars owe their reality and intelligibility to the forms. Without the forms, we would have no way of explaining how different particular things can share the same universal qualities, such as beauty or equality. Thus, Plato's theory of forms provides a solution to the problem of universals by positing that universals exist independently of the material world and that particulars derive their qualities from their participation in these universals. The implications for epistemology and metaphysics. Plato's theory of forms has profound implications for both epistemology and metaphysics. In terms of epistemology, it suggests that true knowledge is not about the material world, but about the eternal forms. This is because the material world is constantly changing and subject to imperfection, whereas the forms are unchanging and perfect. Therefore, knowledge of universals must be a kind of intellectual apprehension of the forms, not a result of sensory experience. Plato famously illustrates this point in the Meno through the theory of recollection, which holds that all learning is a process of remembering the forms that the soul knew before it was incarnated in the body. Meno 80a, 81e. In terms of metaphysics, Plato's theory of forms implies a dualistic view of reality in which the material world is a mere shadow of the true reality, the world of forms. This dualism has far-reaching consequences for how we understand the nature of existence and the relationship between mind and body, appearance, and reality. Plato's dualism also sets the stage for later philosophical developments, particularly in the thought of Descartes and the rationalist tradition, which similarly emphasize the distinction between the material and the immaterial. Criticisms of Plato's theory. While Plato's theory of forms provides a compelling solution to the problem of universals, it has not gone without criticism. One of the earliest and most famous critiques comes from Aristotle, who studied under Plato but developed a very different metaphysical system. Aristotle rejects Plato's theory of separate forms, arguing that universals do not exist independently of particulars. Instead, he holds that universals exist in particulars and are abstracted by the mind. For Aristotle, there is no need to posit a separate realm of forms. Universals are simply the common properties that we observe in particular things. Metaphysics 1038b. Aristotle's critique is often seen as one of the most important challenges to Plato's theory of universals. By denying the existence of a separate realm of forms, Aristotle avoids many of the difficulties that Plato's theory faces, such as the problem of participation. At the same time, however, Aristotle's account of universals raises its own set of problems, particularly concerning the status of universals and the nature of abstraction. In addition to Aristotle's critique, later philosophers such as Thomas Aquinas, David Hume, and Immanuel Kant have raised further objections to Plato's theory of forms. Aquinas, for example, sought to reconcile Plato's ideas with Christian theology, while Hume and Kant developed empiricist and critical responses to the rationalist tradition that followed from Plato's metaphysical dualism. Conclusion: the legacy of Plato's theory of universals. Despite these criticisms, Plato's theory of forms remains one of the most influential solutions to the problem of universals in the history of philosophy. His distinction between the material world and the world of forms has shaped not only metaphysics and epistemology, but also ethics, aesthetics, and political philosophy. For Plato, the forms are not only the source of knowledge, but also the foundation of all value. The form of the good, in particular, is the ultimate principle that gives meaning and order to the universe. Republic 508d 509b. In conclusion, Plato's theory of forms provides a powerful and enduring solution to the problem of universals, one that continues to inspire debate and reflection among philosophers. Whether or not we accept his metaphysical dualism, Plato's insights into the nature of universals, knowledge, and reality have left a lasting mark on the philosophical tradition. As we continue to explore these issues, we are reminded of the richness and complexity of Plato's thought and its ongoing relevance to our understanding of the world.